the blue screen crashed.
The blue screen
Wait,
crashed? Is
what?
that possible?
That is well.
It blue screened and the blue screen crashed.
Nice.
Oh no, that's the
I've
worst.
never seen that one before.
Blue screen crashing.
Yeah, it was like zoom over a blue screen over a Zoom.
How am I at
It's-
80% battery already? My God.
80%. Wow. You need the new Intel Core.
I need to know this is the old Surface Laptop Studio. I apparently need to.
I'm
run
hearing
the-
something.
Is it from Mark or from Ian?
No.
Probably Ian.
Oh, maybe Ian.
Ian playing a video.
Sorry.
Watching us
Yes,
playing a
that was
video.
Welcome. We're here, man. It's
Hey.
Wednesday. We're not used to doing a Wednesday. This is just loosey goosey today. We're just gonna roll with the punches. Ian does not have enough cores in his system, so he might drop in and out. It's fine. It happens. We'll forgive you.
Anything can happen on a
It's
Wednesday.
there are more cores there and there and there.
If only you could just borrow some. Imagine if you could take some of the big cores over here, some of the little cores over here, some of the low power E cores over here. You put them all together in one thing.
In that system here, it's 384 threads.
Yeah, that you just not
Yep.
enough. Well, also you need to take that Guai and put it on the system that's running now.
I know. That's what. Don't put it that far away. Put it next to your
Oh
system.
yeah, Robert Lawrence makes a good point. Just download more cores. Go to core.com.
That's right.
Download, install the update.
That's it.
Welcome everybody. Today's Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Wednesday show. Because yesterday we were at Intel Innovation. Well, we were at Intel Innovation.
that's
Ian
right.
was not at Intel Innovation. And we saw some stuff. But then also tomorrow we've got a Microsoft Surface event.
It's a busy week.
We're going to preview that. Yeah, it is there's news popping all around. So lots of fun stuff. to talk about.
Didn't you guys just have TechCrunch Disrupt and the Moscone as well?
Could have.
Is that
yes,
today?
yeah. Okay, so
That's why the traffic-
I did get invited to go do an interview there. It didn't work out timing wise, unfortunately. But yeah, no,
Okay.
there's too much stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out
It's-
why all the traffic was going on today. So there was Dreamforce last week, and then I guess
yeah,
it's
right.
TechCrunch this time.
That's true.
And Dreamforce can make a city stand still.
Shut down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Take your building and get out of here.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, we're here. We're on time because we're late. So that's how you know. That's how you know
That's
we're
how
on
you
time. And Ian's filling in. Brad is not feeling well and is not able to join us. Elena has to deal with some stuff as well. So we called up Ian. I said, "Ring, ring. Hello, Ian. Can you get on a Zoom call with me?" And he said, "Yeah, as long as I don't crash." And I said, "Yeah, please don't crash."
Yep.
But then you crashed. That's fine. You're still
Twice.
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, I welcome everybody. We got friends of the show, Ziv, VC Jester, Robert Lawrence, Idwall Williams, hello, Rurutu, Sid Lives, New Tech,
New tech.
all the cool cats. We're here and we're gonna talk. I think we should just jump right into
Yeah,
it.
let's do it.
Let's do
Yeah.
it.
No sponsor for today's episode. This is just all pure us. It's
Yep.
sponsored by Oakland A's.
Oakland A's, sell the team.
Yeah. They're not around anymore, so if you didn't know.
Full Nerd merch store. You should have a segment for that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we should. Oh, yeah.
Good
No. Yeah. I did not get the memo on how to properly sell merch, so yeah, we don't do it very well. But you should go to merch.techtechpotato.com. I have it up right now because I need to buy some hot chip action.
Yeah,
Potato
that's right.
merch.
See, but that's the first time I've seen the wafer actually be square. Why is that the only time you see the square
Is
wafer?
that a Cerebras wafer?
Yeah, so there's an AI company that makes a chip as big as your head.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
Whenever you hear Intel say they want a chip with 1 trillion transistors by the end of the decade, here's one that's already 2.6 trillion,
Nice.
and it's available today
Yep.
Wow.
for a couple million.
Well, it's kind of like, McDonald's has round patties and Wendy's has square patties. It's the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never been to Wendy's, or I haven't been to Wendy's in a long
Oh,
while.
okay. I was about to say, I was
I've
like,
never
you've
been to
never been to
Never.
Wendy's. Wow,
Haven't
let's,
been
let's
in a
not
while.
go into
Big
to
difference.
hamburger
Mark.
talk yet.
Mark, that only works if they're cut from a circular piece of
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
Imagine
Let's just not go there.
imagine the Wendy's expose where they go and they're like, we went in the back, and you know what? There's all this meat that they're just chopping off so that they
Yeah.
get the square.
The only
patty.
circular piece of meat is like the chitlins, and I don't want to even deal with that.
Yeah. And then Ivan's asking, isn't Dr. Ian running on JEDEC? So yeah, maybe that's why your computer keeps crashing. Running on JEDEC speeds. You gotta,
Because it's not overclocked.
yeah, you gotta overclock it.
We should stop mentioning that, otherwise.
Yeah,
just make sure.
No, if we keep mentioning it, then it's going to be stable.
Oh, it's that
That's how it goes.
opposite
That's how it goes. Today's opposite day. And then Ziv, no Falcon fuel today, and no, I cannot confirm or deny that it's made of 100% Falcon. It might just be 99%. Anyway, I think we're ready. Are we ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gentle
All right.
folks.
Kick
All
us
right.
off, Adam.
Here we go. Let me bring up the pre-written intro. Okay. In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk about Microsoft fall updates and Intel innovation. Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 272. That is a lot of episodes, but we're still here. We're still talking about technology and the news of the day.
We are.
Speaking of the news of the day, Mark Hawkman is here in the studio with me. Hello, Mark.
Hey, guys.
And then on the line, filling in for both Brad and Elena, is Dr. Ian Cutress of Tech Potato fame. Hello, Ian.
It's so what I get both of them merged and just lower quality.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
You need a beard. Have you ever grown a beard, Ian? Are you a beard kind of guy?
I've
No?
grown a goatee years and decades ago.
Okay, maybe you should bring it. See, then you're halfway between Brad and Elena with the goatee.
That's true.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Speaking of halfway to falling asleep, Willis Lai is over on the verticals and horizontals. Hello, Willis.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I am wide awake, and happy Hamburger Wednesday, actually.
Hamburger
It's a
Wednesday.
national hamburger week,
Is it really?
yeah, starting Monday. It was
Huh.
Hamburger Week.
Really?
So yeah, go get some
Yes-
hamburgers
yesterday
for lunch
was-
later.
Breaking news.
Yesterday was Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Oh, okay.
we
Well,
are.
yeah. Well, that's
Brad normally would be all over that.
yeah. I guess that's why we skipped the episode yesterday,
right.
because we didn't want to do the whole episode as a pirate voice.
Right.
But no, actually, in honesty, we were in Mark and I were at Intel Innovation. Ian was not. I assume you caught in from afar. Intel Innovation.
Yes, they had the live stream online.
Right. They went up last night, I think.
I have a 96 tweet storm,
Oh, nice.
images from all over.
Oh, fun. All right,
Okay.
you should check that out. Before we get to that news, though, and before we get to the Windows news, I have a couple little. I'm going to call this section tidbits, or maybe I should call it Timbits, because then I just think of the little donables. Yeah, a couple things I want to cover real quickly. Breaking news, I just got in the Zyke drive. I ordered one of these. If you don't know, Gordon was very excited about this. We did a video about it because this is one of the only true USB 4 drives that you can get.
You just broke it.
Yeah, and it's the Zyke.
Did a Linus.
Zike. And I can't remember the controller in here, but it is a true USB 4 controller. Gordon did testing. I need to link the video, but yeah.
Yep.
So I pre-ordered it. I think they had an Indiegogo or one of those pre-order campaign kind of, or it's not a pre-order. It's a whatever,
I
your
need one of those
funds.
for
Investment.
Thunderbolt dock testing.
Yeah. Anyway, it was kind of stuck because they weren't shipping it out. They were like, oh hey, we can't get access. Where there's a shortage of the actual controller that's in here. And I was like, man, this thing's not coming out for a while. Who knows? But it is here now. So we're gonna do some more true USB 4 testing.
What's the capacity?
No, this is just the bare drive.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
yeah,
You just stick
yeah.
a drive in there.
So
It's an
yeah,
enclosure. Got it.
yeah, I don't know exactly which drive. Maybe the makers of fastest class SSDs. Just kidding. And then the other thing we have on this table, which is taking up a lot here, and I'm going to try not to break it, is the Asus ROG Matrix Platinum GeForce RTX 4090. So this is technically the fastest off-the-shelf 4090 that you can get. It went down to the Fremont office, Asus's Fremont office, to do a quick little interview with one of the project managers. Go watch that interview. It was on the the channel, but this is a very special limited edition kind of piece of kit here. So it's got liquid metal on the inside. It's got a 360 millimeter AIO on it, and it is
Heavy.
beautiful. It is heavy.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I'm going to break it by looking at it. But yeah, so yeah. I wanted to do some testing with it, but then I was going to throw it on like a bench, and then I was like, with a card this beautiful, you just can't just throw it on a bench and just, like be like, just treat it like another GPU. So next week, I believe, next Thursday, we're going to do a live build, make a real pretty PC with this inside of it. So hopefully join us in, and then live I'll do a little bit of testing too, just to see how it performs.
Very nice.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just a quick little tidbits. I don't, at the top of the show. But let's get to the meat of the show. First up, Microsoft has an event planned for tomorrow.
They do.
And they're going to talk about hardware and software. Also, the other thing to talk about is that somebody's not going to be there.
That's true.
Let's start off with what can you expect from the event? What's this event that's going on?
Okay.
Mark?
So first of all, yes, Microsoft's holding their, I guess, annual fall refresh, and usually that usually encompasses both hardware as well as software. So in this case, we're going to be expecting a couple of new Surfaces, probably a successor to the Surface Laptop Studio, which if I could do it. Oops, there we go. It has that, nice weird folding screen, lovely speakers. This has sort of a low, one of the creator class RTX chips in it. This has a Core i7, I believe. So it's a nice, I like it. It's a great laptop. It's actually probably the best Surface laptop that Microsoft makes. Because they don't really make the Surface Book anymore. Probably will just, we're expecting, sort of we're hoping for a 13th gen chip. We're hoping for the updated RTX probably 4060 or 4050. Nothing that outstanding as far as gaming machine, but there's this lovely little tweener content creation segment that a couple of people now play in, Microsoft being one of them. And I mean, this is really, besides the fact that over time the battery life has significantly decreased, and that might just be because I don't have it. I am always hooked up to desktop power. This has been a great machine. Everything from, and it even has a little.
Oh yeah, you got the little pen, little
pen.
flat pen.
Just like squiffingly. I can't even get the damn thing out because it's magnetically attached. So it's great. I like it. It's a terrific little machine. It's a little bit harder to get excited about what we're also expecting, like an update to the Surface Go. One of those machines that's really probably one of their highest sellers in terms of volume, but that's also because of the price.
Isn't that is that the detachable keyboard one?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's like a smaller Surface Pro essentially. And supposedly they're getting rid of the ARM variant in terms of just going with like an N. I think it's an N series N6000. We'll have to see what tomorrow holds. It's one of those things that is a viable device. It's not my particular choice of device, but for a certain segment of people who like to go on the road and like a smaller little tablet, really there's not too much else out there. So that really fits in that particular niche too. We're going to see, and then on the flip side of things, we're going to see Windows 23H2 probably be discussed or formally announced.
Which you have an article, I've linked in the description, and it went live on PC World today.
Yep.
So
things that
you
in a sec.
you want to? Okay.
Let's talk about it in a sec. Just kind of run down the features.
Okay.
And then the third thing is, of course, with the news we have today or this week about Chief Product Officer Panos Panay departing Microsoft. Bloomberg reporting that he's headed to Amazon to head up the Alexa devices and software stuff, which is as my take on it as I wrote for the site was the fact that he was, I think, sort of in a way the heart and soul of Microsoft on the consumer side of things. I mean, it's really easy to make fun of to make fun of him in a way because he was passionate about his products, and we live in a world today where passion is not a thing. Cynicism is kind of the sort of the driving force of everything. And
definitely a passionate guy.
Yeah, he's a passionate guy. I mean, I have
genuine passion. It
right.
didn't feel like like he was doing it just for the
and not
the
just on
company.
stage too. I mean, we've had a chance to in various things to interact with him. Like I've spoken with him one-on-one, not in a kind of formal interview sense, but just like hey, this is what what he wanted to know what I thought about the product, and I wanted to know what sort of things he was thinking about. So there's like sort of like give and take, and you get the feeling that he honestly cared about what he did, and I think if you look at over time how Microsoft's product evolved, there was that period of time where he was sort of overseeing Surface, and Surface just took off, and you saw all these different sort of devices. You saw Surface Book, you saw Surface Laptop Go, you saw Surface Go, you saw Surface Laptop Studio, and you can argue the fact that these are just different form factors. They all had the sort of the same shape. They didn't change a whole lot over the years, but at the same time, that ecosystem kind of flourished. And he also oversaw Windows, and there was a lot of at the time, Windows 10 especially had a lot of creative elements to it. There was that period of time, unfortunately, with Windows mixed reality, which didn't take off, but you had that renaissance with hey, we're going to put Windows in sort of a 3D space, and so there was they threw a lot of things at the wall. Not everything stuck, but you kind of see Panos's fingerprints in this, and like I said, it's kind of easy to mock him. I mean, I was thinking to myself, the guy is like going to be now doing, Amazon Alexa stuff, and he's going to be showing his daughter. He's going to be saying, "Oh, it's so wonderful that I got to, buy this crate of toilet paper for $14.95 on an Amazon screen." I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean,
Maybe,
maybe, but I mean, I really did admire the guy. You really have to, you kind of have people that you like to see and interact with, and I think that he was definitely a driving force behind Microsoft. And it's kind of sad to see him go.
Well, real quick, Ian. Have you had any interactions with Panos?
I never interacted with him directly, but the companies that we cover, he often appears either on stage or via video link. And I'll be honest, I felt a lot of those interactions were slightly contrived because they were in presentation mode.
That's true.
Right. It's hard to come across as passionate when you're doing a presentation without it seeming like you're trying to play a game or something.
Or like, oh, hey, now let's have so and so come on to talk about XYZ, and it's like, yeah, that can be very scripted. Where usually the Surface events where he would just kind of like it was almost like, hey, this is my showcase.
Yeah, he would walk around the audience, and he would kind of like talk to people. I mean, it was a little bit like you'd seen a talk show host a little bit. But I mean, hey, I liked it. I thought it was new, it was fresh, it was different than some guy up there on the PowerPoint, which we see too often.
For sure,
so,
yeah.
We've had other people be like the voice of brands suddenly go to either a collaborator or a competitor.
Right.
And they have to change their Twitter handle from first name _ company 1 to first name _ company 2.
That's right.
But there's going to be some big shoes to fill if they want to have somebody with that amount of charisma still in that position moving forward.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then, there will be a stream, or no, there won't be a stream. Yeah, but there will be a live event. It's just not going to be streamed out.
Yeah, so we're going to have Michael Kreider there from PC World, and he's going to be there, and he's going to be reporting on what they have, and then filing stories over the course of the day. And as eventually they may have sort of a recap or a replay of what they've talked about there, and we'll sort of as the world will see it. But yeah.
Well, the question I have that I've seen people were talking about in Discord, in our awesome Discord group, is that do you think he will be there? Do you think this is his last hurrah and then he's out? Or
I don't even know if he's actually still at Microsoft anymore. I honestly don't know that.
Oh.
But no, I think so. Basically, what happens is that he's going to be replaced by, and you could say 3 people. So Yusuf Mehdi, he's their consumer guy, and he is a very polished marketing executive, and I think he's going to be he's the odds-on candidate to basically lead that particular introduction.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean he's tough to get a read on. I mean I've talked with him as well, and he just is always about the company line. Whereas Panos, you got a sense for you were talking to him as opposed to just a Microsoft executive, on occasion anyways. So yeah, I think that Yusuf's going to go ahead and introduce it, and it's it'll be fine. I mean, I don't think it's going to be anything different. I think it's worth mentioning though that Pavan Dubaluri, he's the GM of Surface. He's going to maintain his position, but he's also going to be in charge of Silicon System devices. So kind of unchanged, but he's a little bit of a step up for him. The interesting thing is that there's going to be a new Windows and Web Experiences team led by Mikhail Parakin, and he's the guy that does Bing and Bing Chat right now. I think it's probably safe to say that, this is kind of the theme of this whole show right now, is that it's AI.
I mean, it's the theme of everyone's show.
Yeah, I mean, it's AI. It's going to be AI. I mean, the guy is, we have Windows Copilot, which is a weird amalgamation of Bing Chat and kind of Cortana. I mean, it's basically Bing Chat, and it can do a couple of things for you, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But I have to imagine that we're going to see just, we're looking at Windows 12 next year. I mean, just more and more in AI, and probably more and more in subscriptions too, if we're going to be honest.
Good.
Windows 365 Copilot, Word Copilot, these are all things that Microsoft wants you to pay for. And I really could see something like, we have this little Teams thing in the bottom of our Windows 11 thing that nobody uses because who the hell wants to talk to
I always uninstall it.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't even show it anymore. And I think we'll probably see some sort of push towards that. But we'll have to see. I mean, this is going to be his baby.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, the other big thing is Windows 11 23 H2.
Right, and let's talk just a little bit about the features there. I mean, what we've seen
really
there.
Good article. Once again, go read it on PC World.
We'll have sort of a little bit more of a review as we come closer to it too. It's been weird. Normally, at this point in time, everything that's going to be in the next version of Windows 11 because they basically have traditionally said, okay, at some point in time, we're just going to go ahead and dump it all in the release preview channel. And the release preview channel is one of their insider channels. It's a beta. You can go ahead and test it out and try it. They've done weird things this time around where they've released a feature both in the beta channel, which is, again, testing. It's generally a commit to do it. But they've also done it in the release preview channel, and they've sort of staggered this over the last few months. So some things are in there and some things are not, and some things you expect to be in there, but you're not actually sure if they're going to be in there. So we kind of have to make some guesses at this point in time based upon what they've shown. And so pretty much everyone believes that Windows Copilot's going to be in 23H2, and then Windows Copilot again is something that really not too many people have used because you have to have some sort of weird permissions and canary builds and so forth. But again, it's basically like Bing Chat in your PC with the ability to like turn on Windows Dark Mode and take a snapshot and really limited functionality and
real quick, is this in the start menu, or is this in the?
No, it will live down your taskbar. That's the idea.
Oh, great. Kind of like Cortana, right?
Kind of. Yeah, Cortana's dead. They basically they're taking it out. But it's great from. There's a lot of, I think, a lot of what we're talking about today is great from a potential standpoint, like the foundations being laid for something that could really be new and interesting and useful. As it is right now, it's not especially. Windows Copilot, again, I mean, there's Bing Chat, sure, people are going to use it. Cortana or the settings menu to do things like turn on dark mode, okay, yeah, some people are going to use that. But I'm not sure if people are going to realize that Windows Copilot's going to be the go-to place for doing stuff like that. At the same time, I've always been, critical of Windows for a number of things, but one of those, the fact is there's just really not a great help function. I mean, people want to know how to do something in Windows, they Google it.
Well, there's a tips app.
There's a tips app, but I don't really know how many people use it or go to it. It's been a real drawback of Windows. And if people start like thinking of Copilot as the place where they can go to find help tips or find just do things that they want to do, that's great, but we're not there yet, and I'm not sure we're going to, because it seems like, honestly, that Microsoft almost has to manually add these things in, which makes sense because you don't want this AI to run rampant over your Windows desktop, probably. So that means they're going to have to manually add these functions in, and that's going to be like a manual, laborious process, and I don't know how that's going to really play out.
Also, it's going to depend on where they think the interest lies, right? Like, hey, if we have a bunch of things that we could implement, but we're manually doing this, and we're going to have to prioritize. And
that's it. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's right. No, you're absolutely right.
I got a couple questions on this end for the Copilot stuff. But first, Ian, do you ever mess around with pre-release Windows, like either beta or preview stuff?
I don't. Though with a Copilot, I could just imagine myself saying, "Copilot, can you uninstall Copilot?"
Copilot, where's Cortana? I played that video game.
Covenant got her.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But that being said, I do follow some of the Windows insiders who actually work at Microsoft, and one of the big thing that caught my eye was they're updating MS Paint to now. I'm not sure if that was in your to talk about list, Mark, but the remove backgrounds.
Oh,
exactly. You shouldn't mess with perfection, but they're actually updating MS Paint.
Interesting. There's actually a couple things, to be honest with you. I was just busy this week, and one of the things I was trying to do was add some of the apps to it, and Paint came out like right at the time that I'd actually filed it, so it's not in the story, but Ian's absolutely true.
Wait, so you can tell Copilot to open up Paint and draw you a picture?
Eventually, actually, you probably will be able to. I mean, Paint will have generative AI in it because so does Bing. I mean, Bing Chat does. So yes, I mean, I'm sure you probably will actually. And it's
that's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, supposedly that's one of the things they're talking about in the future. But yeah, I mean, but you're absolutely right.
So,
if you want to go ahead and talk about that, please do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what they showed off was pretty simple. It was just a cat photo, and you could cut the cat out of the photo and make the rest of the background.
Wait, hold up. Cut the cat out of the photo?
Yeah.
We want to see the cat. Or
you want to replace the background?
Oh, replace the background. Okay. Okay. I want to add cats to photos, not take them out.
Adam's trigger warning.
Yeah.
Don't remove cats.
Remove cats.
That being said, on the generative AI front, I can see them adding things like a basic version of Stable Diffusion. They can't step too much on Adobe's toes, though, because that's a strong Microsoft partner. If they suddenly start offering features that Adobe charges people for, there's going to be some friction internally.
So two thoughts on that. So one, they've had this feature before, but it was in Paint 3D, which was Paint 3D was deprecated, and it was this weird 3D diorama app, but the tool was called Magic Select, and I thought it was like a wonderful feature. It was kind of Photoshoppy and so forth, and then Microsoft, it got buried because nobody used Paint 3D. So now it is, in fact, in Paint, and I think that's great, and I think that should be, more of this stuff should be done. There should be more cross-pollination within apps, and I am, I'm actually totally shocked about Paint and Photos are actually getting updates. I mean, Photos got its spot fixed back, and it's got its filter, the AI adjustments, and it's supposedly getting additional features. Well, sorry, go ahead.
But WordPad got deprecated.
Yeah, well, I know.
Wait, why? Did they take the tabs out?
They want to use Word instead. It's like text editing, Word, and there's.
So, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I still like.
But no, seriously.
I mean, Notepad is still there.
Yes, it is. And it's gotten a little bit better too. It was at tabs.
Yep.
Ooh, wow.
Yes.
I mean, I still use it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're having
actually, that's what I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about Notepad.
Yeah, right.
WordPad.
So yeah, I mean, the apps are getting some love, and that's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm totally in favor of that. I'm totally indifferent, in favor of them beefing those things up.
Well, real quick, one of the questions I have about this is that. Are we only talking about Windows 11, or do you think some of these things like Copilot and app updates are coming to Windows 10?
Yeah, I know, right? That's the question, and the answer I would agree with Ian is that no. They want you to be on Windows 11, and Windows 10 is kind of fading out.
I'm still on Windows 10 in my home.
I know, and I still am on record that Windows 10 is sort of the majority. It should be used by most people, but I'm leaning more towards 11 only because it's kind of like I have to pull the plug sometime. I know.
All my new systems are now Windows 11, and that's purely because I spent the time to make my own Windows 11 build.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I can cut out some of the stuff I don't like.
Fancy,
yeah. You can get rid of some stuff.
Well, and then sorry, real quick. My other question is Copilot. What kind of performance hit is that going to take on a system? What are the requirements on that?
Well, right now it's runs in the cloud, so there's really not.
Oh,
any sort of
nothing.
requirements.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's just the fact
Okay.
that you have to, assumes that you have a connected device.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the issue. I mean, that is the we don't have to do it now, but that is the segue into Meteor Lake and what they're doing with AI, because Intel wants you to do it locally.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Microsoft
Yeah,
doesn't really
I just
care so
assumed
much.
it was like,
Yeah.
oh, hey,
Right.
this thing built into Windows is
Right.
going to leverage the hardware you have.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And actually, it's weird because Intel didn't spend any time talking about really Copilot at all, but that actually is one of the most compelling arguments for it, because you shouldn't need to be connected to do local AI. And it's weird actually that they didn't mention that once, but that's actually a pretty damn compelling argument to do it. So
okay. Well, before we get to the Intel stuff, yeah.
Sure.
What
Let's just
else?
run down the rest of the features. And they're not, again, we're not talking about these huge, massive builds of old. There's not a whole lot here. And in some of the stuff, we're kind of guessing that they're going to be in there. Some of them are not. One thing that is there, because it's in there now, the updated settings homepage, just a nicer, tighter organization of like the different pages. I mean, there's just stuff there, you get to see all your, it's like a dashboard basically. And it's nice. I mean, you just see personalization and your cloud storage and whether you're subscribed to Xbox Game Pass and blah, blah, blah. It's, okay, fine. Great.
Subscribe.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. The interesting thing, we did talk about apps. This is probably something for this RGB lighting, dynamic lighting app.
Yeah, Gordon has talked a lot about that. He's pretty skeptical that Microsoft can bring together the RGB ecosystem.
Well, there's so many variations, right?
Right.
Everything's proprietary. Is that right?
Well, and most of the companies want to have it under
Right.
their control,
Of
right?
course.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. So how much power can Microsoft actually have? And
So I would slightly disagree with that and say that the big OEM partners, the Dells and the HPs, maybe even the Lenovo's, they would get in on it because
True.
it would simplify their
them.
cost structure.
I can see that. But yeah, I mean, somebody like Corsair who's dumped so much money into IQ, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to be like, what are you talking about? Control it in our app.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So, let's see what else we got. Again, we're getting kind of nitty gritty right now. AI recommendations at File Explorer. File Explorer is getting tweaked a little bit supposedly, where it's going to have sort of a carousel view. But the only way they'll have a carousel view is if you actually have a SharePoint account. It's a weird thing where you're also going to see, Windows 11. Windows 11 is basically synonymous with Windows 11 Home. Windows 11 Pro is a thing, but we don't necessarily always think about it as being a thing. There's only one feature that's in here that's supposedly going to be for Windows 11 Pro, and that's some weird, enhanced, richer file preview. Like if you have Windows 11 Pro, you're going to see more information about the file versus the Windows 11 Home. It's just like, why even bother? I don't know why that is, but they've said that before. So there you go on that. And there's it is a little bit weird. The one nice thing that there's a couple of some cool things that I like that are probably going to be in there. Windows backup and restore. The migration from one PC to another has always been kind of a chore. All my files carrying over. There was specific companies designed to do that for a while. And supposedly what's going to happen is that you're going to see, and I haven't checked this because I haven't, started a new PC. You're going to see a new Windows backup app, which is going to basically just say, hey, you want to move over to a new PC? Let's just put everything that we can in the cloud. And then sort of what they call the out-of-the-box experience for a new Windows 11 build. You're going to see that interact with that app and just kind of, I guess, migrate as much as you can. I mean, right now, you can save documents in this cloud. You can save, your pictures and stuff and photos in the cloud and so forth. But, like apps you have to reinstall, and they're trying to facilitate all of that. Make it easier.
I have an issue with that. What if I've got a few hundred gigabytes of Steam games? Am I going to have to upload it?
That's the exception right there.
Right?
Yep, exactly. Now, Xbox, if you had an Xbox, different story.
So the mobile phone space, they've had device-to-device transfer of everything. That's been a nearly solved problem for quite a while. The fact that Windows hasn't, I guess, just because it's more of an open ecosystem.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, because everything that you're transferring over is usually on the Play Store or the Apple Store, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing with Windows. I mean, if you actually happen to download that app from the Windows Store, the Microsoft Store, sure, that's going to be there. But yes, not many people don't.
Does
Go
your H.265 license carry over?
No. I'm sure you gotta
That sort of thing.
re-get that license. Yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously
Hey, another-
complications to it.
$1.25, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
A couple of little bits and pieces. New volume mixers, supposedly. I mean, I think Mike Kreider's been complaining about forever about the fact that it's still a pain to switch between headphones and so forth.
Mhm.
Passkeys is an interesting one. We've talked about that before. It's basically using biometrics to log into a website. Supposedly, there's going to be a lot more support, including an actual settings page to manage it. I haven't seen anything in the preview builds to say that's going to happen, so I don't know if it's going to or not. But again, anytime that you can move away from a password and just using your face or something of that sort, I'm in favor of it. I'm not a security expert, so there might be some implications there, but I think that's great. So. Then that's pretty
Don't
much...
ever lose your face.
Don't lose your face. And in fact, you're right. If you grow a beard and so forth, you have to log in again. That's an issue.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, when you get your goatee in.
Yep. Fingerprints actually have been consistent. If the sensor stays...
As long as you have a finger.
As long as you have... Actually, my wife just sliced off part of her finger when she was
Ouch.
chopping something. Yeah,
Oh,
so she
no.
was like, my pinky going to be still there? I don't know. Let's see. And then
Avocado
the other thing I like, but nobody uses it, in-field inking for Windows Ink. If you're actually talking about a field in Windows, like if you're like searching in a search box, you can actually ink in it and say, I want to search for potatoes or tech potato. And it'll actually interpret that as a search
As
for
text.
tech potato as text.
Interesting.
And that's
Okay.
nice. It
Yeah,
should have
you
worked
should.
that way for
There you
ages, and it hasn't.
Yeah, merch.techtechpotatoes.com.
Merch.tech, yes, exactly. We'll just drop a little bit. And that's pretty much it. There's a couple of bits and pieces and so
Oh,
forth. But,
Okay.
Well,
Well,
hey.
do you think there are going to be any surprises tomorrow,
no,
Windows-wise? Do you think they'll talk about
it'll
12?
be...
Any mention of 12?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Any mention of, hey, we're looking to the future?
No, I don't think so. And the only reason I would say so is because Panos left. I would
Yeah.
think they would want to get in and get out as quickly as possible, but I could be wrong.
Hmm.
Maybe they will. Maybe they'll go ahead and use that as a distraction and just say, hey, this is the future, and let's not worry about all the other things that we really haven't talked about. I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice to see, and hopefully there will be some Windows 12 stuff. Not saying there won't be.
I mean, there's a lot of people in the chat saying they're just going to try to skip 11 altogether, go straight from 10 to 12.
Yeah, but
so.
I wouldn't expect Windows 12 to be that radically different. It's probably going to be built upon Windows 11. So if you're
Yeah.
not like Windows 11, I'm not sure you're going to.
It'll be like Windows 8.1.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
it'll be a 11.1.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
so. Maybe so.
If they made file search faster,
Yes.
then everybody's going to move over.
Yeah, exactly right. I
Well,
mean,
no, it's the right-click menu that still gets me.
that's
You
true,
got right
too.
click and then click to get more options.
Well, again, local AI. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's
And
file
it's
search, right?
I've edited my Windows 11 image, so that doesn't happen
I
anymore.
know. I should do that too.
Well, the one thing that Windows indexing just is supposedly that's supposed to solve the problem of file search. Whatever it is, I still can't. Yeah, I can turn on Windows indexing. It doesn't seem to do anything for me. So that's the annoying thing about it all.
Yeah.
They'll fix it, and it'll be a subscription service.
There we go.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Should
like
ask
that.
Cortana to help.
Okay.
All right. Well, look forward to that. And then the idea is let's just kind of recap Intel innovation from a high level.
Yeah, sure.
And so Pat Gelsinger got on stage 8:30 promptly.
Yep.
Yesterday morning,
Oh.
we were there, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
You were there. I was stuck in traffic.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
your commute was bad. Or I'm going to pause real quick. Well,
I was on my computer thinking it was 9 o'clock.
yeah, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, so did other people.
We're back. Okay, all right.
Hello,
So hopefully,
So I will say, now that everybody's back, the one thing that wasn't in the video with me and Mark about Meteor Lake was the launch date.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
yeah.
'Cause we
Well,
didn't know it then. We
Yep.
know it now.
yeah. So
December 14th.
That's it.
yeah, obviously a lot of stuff was talked about, but yeah, I think the biggest thing, obviously, it's, and you know what, it's not Meteor Lake, it's
No.
officially Intel Core Ultra
Core
processors.
Ultra, and it's Core Ultra Series 1. That's the other thing too.
Yeah.
Yes, I was told that at Innovation. So Meteor Lake will be Intel Core Ultra Series 1, but it'll only be Intel Core Ultra Series 1 when Intel Core Ultra Series 2, aka Lunar Lake, is released, because
So-
then you have to differentiate between one and the other.
Yeah, no more gens, no
Yes.
more shorthand of 14th gen, 15th gen kind of
No.
thing.
It's-
Series 1, Series 2.
That's right.
It sounds like Qualcomm Gen 1, Gen 2.
Well, that struck me as well, and it struck some other people who were working at Intel who were complaining about the fact that they have two PhDs whose PhDs are in branding, who came up with the fact that they're going to get rid of the Core i5, i7, i9 designation and replace it with Core Ultra. there was a little bit of
Well, so the big thing that with that announcement that kind of went under the radar is that the official name was Intel Core 14th generation i5 Core i5 whatever, and it just took out the 14th generation. So now your SKU name is about 20 characters shorter.
I guess so. I mean, they didn't refer to it. Yes, they didn't refer to it as the 14th generation core. Yes, but it is the 14th generation core. So
yeah, but it's also the Series 1. It's the first in the series, and you're a racing fan, right? Isn't this a car thing series? I thought I heard when the Xbox came out.
It's true.
Yeah. So
Formula.
I'm not a car person, so I don't get this whole series thing. But I mean, at least because the biggest question for me is like at the end of the day, as long as there's some way to track, okay, what's the newest one? Oh, it's you got to have some sort of signifier. So yeah, but we also don't know how that's going to translate to the actual naming of parts. Right?
No, we don't.
So
one of the questions I asked Michelle Johnston, Holthouse, the head of CCG, was whether we're going to see new model numbers, new product, and she really didn't say.
Yeah, so could the 14 be in that number or not? Or I mean,
there's been
So there have been some leaks that's right. Like Core i5 1005H. So imagine your standard 5-digit number you get today, and instead of the first important number being 2 digits, it's now just 1.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like that's still going to continue.
I mean, well, the one thing that I was struck by with the fact that when you're talking about these things, I mean, it's really it's getting more complex to even just discuss the capabilities of each particular chip. I mean, it just goes beyond the product name and the model number, but it also goes into clock speeds and threads and cores and P cores and E cores, and now there's new low power E cores, and then there's going to be the
architectures and everything else.
There's going to be
GPU, NPU.
There's 4 tiles in Meteor Lake. They're all apparently going to be on their own schedule. We're not going to see sort of an overhaul with each one. I mean, we could see the IO tile getting a refresh depending upon the market. We could see the SoC tile maybe, I don't know, taking 2 years for a refresh. I mean, we don't know as fact. And it's going to be like
it's going to be even more complicated.
There's so much
going to be even more
preamble
complicated
and explanation with each chip before you can get into the meat of what people want to know. So it's I
mean, but that is the big change, right? And this is kind of the first, not the first, but like the revealing of, hey, you know what, this tile kind of structure, the fact that we can mix and match and update and change things.
Right. And
this is kind of the intro.
We're skipping over some of the basics here. You can find it on the site. You can find it in the conversation we had with Ian. I mean, we're just kind of talking about impressions here. But I mean, do we want to talk about just what it is and what it does, or should we skip that?
I mean, no, I think we skip it because sure. Like you guys have a really nice
post-release announcement discussion. Okay,
but we saw demos.
Yeah. Well, not only did we see demos on stage, they actually had a number of demos on the floor. Yeah. We have a video that Willis is going to be editing that hopefully should get up tomorrow of the demos that we saw there. But I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, AI is what they're wanting to lead with, right?
Yeah. Can you talk about? I mean, so we've seen products. We've seen ASUS announce. We've seen MSI. We saw MSI systems in Malaysia. You said you saw a system on the show floor. Do you want to talk about? Well,
I mean, Acer was on stage. Right, that was kind of the key partner. They brought on Acer.
Swift,
right.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, no. I mean, on the floor, they had a number of laptops. Most of them were covered up with with tape, so you couldn't necessarily look. But we did notice that, oh, hey, interesting, in the task bar there's a MSI control center. I don't know if that's an indication of what it is, but I mean that's also nothing new.
And we did see local demonstration of generative AI and just running on local PC.
Yeah. In the video I covered, there was 5 different use cases. There was Audacity using Refusion, and most of this was OpenVINO stuff. The second one was GIMP with Stable Diffusion and some other OpenVINO plugins. The third one was Adobe Lightroom. With Denoiser. The fourth one was XSplit and OBS. The fifth one was Filmora.
Filmora.
Yeah. There we go. So yeah. Oh, I know. Okay. I was like, I think that's the one that Ian uses to edit his videos.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So so I kind of covered I covered this in the video, so I don't want to spoil it too much, but I did just kind of first getting my hands on it and actually like playing with it and talking to the people who were doing the demos. One of the things that didn't occur to me, and I'm sorry, I'm probably the stupidest one in the room on this, but for me, for anything where they're talking about AI or acceleration, I just assumed, okay, well, there's this new NPU, and almost everything they're going to show off is going to be running on that NPU. But what they kept hammering home is like, hey, no, the NPU is just a third thing in there that you can access, and some things it's good for the NPU, some things it's good for the GPU, some things it's good for the CPU. It's just a third option there, and all the demos. Not all the demos were running on the NPU, so the Lightroom one was actually running on the GPU. They were talking about how the new architecture on the GPU is improved. So, and then the other ones were like, oh hey, I guess so for the Audacity with the Refusion one, you could actually like pick where you wanted it to go, you know, and so it can be configurable, but also with OpenVINO, which maybe you can talk a little bit more because they tried to describe what it was to me, but the idea is that, hey, it'll see what you have in your system and it'll hopefully go to the appropriate place where it's going to be fastest, right? For OpenVINO, it's like an API is how it was kind of described. So.
Yeah, it's essentially CUDA, but a derivative for the NPU, and the NPU is actually silicon that Intel acquired several years ago from a company called Movidius. So there's been several generations of that product. The thing is, you still have to compile to target. So if you're compiling CPU or GPU or NPU, you can do it all through OpenVINO. It just depends whether you've actually tweaked it or not. One of the demos they had a Stable Diffusion demo, which has two halves. Now it's actually depending on whether you want performance or efficiency. If you want pure efficiency, you run it all on the NPU.
Right.
If you want the mix of the two, you split it between NPU and GPU. And just because that's the workload separation, and I think the key thing to point out here is that this is Intel's first generation NPU in Meteor Lake. It only does so much performance because they're still trying it out.
Right.
But it's going to be in. Just like Thunderbolt 4 was proliferated into 1 million devices by having it on die, this NPU is going to be in the hands of 1 million people by the end of next year, and some of those are going to be using it to program next generation, whether that's regular machine learning, whether it's generative. Intel's kind of trying to open the floodgates here, and they're doing it by having these few demos. That being said, in the tech tour last year in Israel, we did see it running on OBS already.
Well, so the thing that was kind of especially on the floor, not only in the presentations, Pat, we also sat in on a AI presentation from Robert Halleck, ex AMD.
That's what I'm talking about. Yep.
And then you would talk to Michelle. We have an interview that's going to be going live on that. We actually have a special edition of the podcast happening tomorrow with Robert and Darren Cruz. So look forward to that.
Let's tune in for that.
It's not going to be live. Pre-recorded. We're actually supposed to film it pre, but it didn't work out. Anyway, but the biggest talk was like, okay, what is AI? Why are people going to want to use it? But the thing Intel, kind of was hammering home was like, hey, listen, you got to put the cart before the horse. We just want to put out as many AI devices as we can out there. Yeah. And hey, you know what? You tell us what you want to use with it. We have some ideas, we have some demos, but really, like we're putting the hardware out there and letting everyone else kind of lead the charge. That was what they kept hammering in all the different talks that we had. So.
So they did that with AVX 512 and nobody used it. They did it with Thunderbolt 4 and tons of people have used it.
Well, also I would like to point out, AMD would like to point out that hey, they were the first ones with hardware, acceleration in a chip. So like it's not just Intel leading the charge. AMD has already gotten in that as well. But one of the other things that Robert in his talk talked about was, hey, Intel, what we have is the ability to really push hard on the software. Yep. We have the the developers, the relationships, and which I mean is true, and it's kind of the same thing on the NVIDIA side too. Like when you have that many people involved in other companies, especially big companies like Adobe, when you have that pull in there to try to push it, that's something that other competitors like AMD just have a hard time keeping up with. So.
It's also financial backing. If you can pay to put 5 developers into another company to help optimize their software, not everybody can do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a couple of points that Halleck brought up that I just thought were important to mention. So one, they're sort of shooting at, like, I mean, he gave a target of 100 million AI PCs, which is this concept that Pat Gelsinger's been talking about since last year, by 2025. Now, whether they'll hit that or not, I don't know.
Also, what's an AI PC?
Yeah, right. It's an AI PC. Is an
It's
AI
a PC with a CPU.
Yeah, or NPU. Yeah, right. Well,
No, CPU.
well, it says it. I believe they say, I think they're looking at NPU, but that's okay. Whatever it might be. So they're using that. The other thing is that they are going to be. Halleck said that they are going to be releasing benchmarks next month. They said they're working on them now. He wouldn't say what the performance is as far as, relative comparisons to, I guess, NVIDIA and AMD or Qualcomm, and then B, he wouldn't say what test they were going to use. So that's a mystery. We'll find out. Maybe we'll find out a little bit more about that tomorrow, but maybe we'll find out a little bit more, in the next month or so. The other thing I wanted to show is, and Ian, you might be interested in this. Can you put up that slide, Willis? That one. They showed a little bit of AI roadmap for future processors, which I thought was interesting because, and that's the one I forgot to put in my story, actually. So I will.
I've got it up right here.
Yeah, thanks. But it shows off Meteor Lake, and it shows off Arrow Lake, and it shows off Lunar Lake. Also, too, I thought that was interesting because have you seen that picture of Lunar Lake before, Ian? I hadn't. I wasn't.
The actual chip.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that diagram was. It has some interesting little stuff around it.
So there was a leaked, unconfirmed photo that I told nobody should pay attention to, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe a month ago,
Right.
showcasing what was called an Intel die with LPDDR5 or just LPDDR attach. Similar to what the Apple processors do today.
Right.
Now, it's not a difficult thing to implement. It's just that Apple's been the big one to herald it from the rooftops. And the fact that diagram has it, I'd actually be more concerned that Lunar Lake looks monolithic.
So, sorry for the audio listeners. Lunar Lake, they're showing the chip. There's the actual processing tiles kind of in the center, but on top there's these two black rectangles.
It's above it in like the XY dimension. It's not above it in the Z
not 3D.
dimension.
It's not stacked. But so you're saying that's RAM?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems
LPDDR, not HBM.
Right. Yeah. So 2024 is Arrow Lake, and then presumably 2025 is Lunar Lake. So Arrow Lake would have next-gen CPUs, enhanced GPU and AI. Lunar Lake would have a next-gen NPU. So that's, I guess, when we're going to see potentially the next SoC tile would be Lunar Lake.
Which Pat did show off a surprise Lunar Lake demo.
He did show off Lunar Lake demo,
on stage.
No.
He said it was Lunar Lake hardware.
He did.
I have to pick a bone because he showed the GIMP demo doing Stable Diffusion. If you actually look back on the video, he had several tabs of GIMP open, one of which already had the photo in.
Oh.
So it didn't actually run the workload, but it was running Windows.
Okay.
So it's still a plus, but maybe it would take too long to do it. I don't know, or it wasn't optimized, or it's still early silicon.
Overflow rooms.
Yeah. No, I didn't catch that. Good catch, but I mean, either way, he's showing off early stuff.
They showed it off.
Technically, he made a mention of it, right? It was like, oh, hey, by the way, this is the first time we're showing off this.
The other thing I wanted to actually just point out with Meteor Lake, and I just think it's just, I don't know, I just think it's an interesting angle, is the fact that, again, it's they're emphasizing low power. I mean, we're talking about performance of 13 gen with half the power, or 40. It's like Michelle said, 40 to 50%. So I'm not sure what it's going to be. But, again, it's, the thread director thing is something that we banged on when it first came out, because you're just like, what? Okay, what is this? What does this mean? And, in Malaysia, it's interesting. In Malaysia, they said, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to push new workloads, new threads to these low power E-cores first, and then to the E-cores, and then to the P-cores. And then if it happens to be in a performance situation, we're going to go ahead and start with the E cores first and then clock up to the P cores. Interestingly enough, Michelle came over to me specifically at the show, and she said, well, because you asked about this, and I went back to my team, and she said, well, there are going to be ways that we can tag high performance threads and start them off the P cores first. And I was just like, and she's like, and I thought, well, A, that was really nice of her to go ahead and check that out. And B, that was a little bit of a change than what they'd said previously, but it's a policy decision. Yep. And, one of the questions I didn't get to ask Michelle because of the fact that we were just kind of pressed for time was the fact that, hey, Xeon seems to be bifurcated in terms of, you get a line for all E cores, you got a line for all P cores, Meteor Lake and the client seems to split the difference. A, could we see all E cores, all P cores, and B, could we see a different implementation of Thread Director where we could sort of head and push it for performance because, you've got this gaming PC segment out there that just demands performance. They don't want anything to do with all this low power junk. So sounds like the possibility is there, at least from a Thread Director standpoint. I don't know about E cores, P cores, leaks and so forth. But I mean, it's just, it is, this ongoing, a little bit of a soap opera because, they're making decisions which not all of their customers agree with, but they're making them for their own reasons, and they're not bad ones either. So,
and it could get messy.
It could get messy.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because there's a lot of opportunities to configure stuff and mix and match, but also it you don't want to stick too much out there. Then it's like, okay, well, what the hell?
Yeah,
anybody
this
get?
Guy right here, right? This is the fastest 4090, supposedly according to the manufacturer. The manufacturer, if this was a laptop, wouldn't want to go ahead and have anything to do with E cores. They'd want P cores and the fastest one they can get.
Right.
So.
Oh, and Gordon,
Gordon.
But then Ian's on the other side, being like, give me all the E cores.
Yeah. So technically that already exists, but in the embedded space with processors like Tremont and stuff. So, or Eckhart Lake, I think it's called.
Right.
I do have a question from the channel, the chat. Somebody asked, Porina Gaming asked, how does the NPU differ from VNNI? Do you know?
So VNNI is an instruction on the CPU.
Okay.
That gets executed just like any other instruction. Whereas the NPU is essentially a completely different block it's on the SoC tile, not on the CPU tile.
Right.
So it runs in this sort of different regime. You have to have enough work for it to be worth putting the workload over there, but that amount of work you need is actually fairly small to ultimately save power and latency at the end of the day. I believe the NPU is accessed like a PCIe device because when you go to Task Manager on a Meteor Lake device, it shows up on the left-hand side of the display as NPU as a separate device. So,
and I can confirm that I had multiple of the demos bring up the Task Manager while the demo was running, so I could see where it was running, and I was surprised to see it there. I didn't think it was going to be in the Task Manager, so that was interesting. And it has 3 sections. It has a compute, copy, and memory. The memory usage it shares the same memory. But
it also means you could potentially in the future have multiple NPUs of different performance or different levels.
And you could have dedicated memory, I suppose, too. Because that's the whole thing. That's the GPU that like Stable Diffusion. It uses VRAM for its execution memory, and so I suppose you could have dedicated NRAM. I don't know if you could call it NPU RAM.
NRAM.
Yeah.
There we go.
There's already a product called
There's
already a product called NRAM.
Right.
It uses carbon nanotubes.
Right.
Well,
NPRAM.
Who knows? So I think the bigger question, unless there's anything else specifically that was talked for the laptop stuff, is okay.
Where's the desktop?
Yeah, no mention of desktop, no mention of current desktop, no mention of, hey, this is where the desktop's going, no mention of, hey, this is how this is going to translate to the desktop. Obviously, they're working on desktop parts. They've shown roadmaps.
Michelle confirms that there's, the thing is, I asked about, is there a desktop version of Meteor Lake? And she says yes. And I'm not entirely certain if that's referring to like the refresh of Raptor Lake or if there's going to be a Meteor Lake, desktop version. But yeah, I mean, there was a question beforehand about whether Intel was going to go in and just, go back to these days where you have one processor family for mobile, one processor family for desktop, or if there was going to be, in fact, like it has been, desktop, mobile, server, or at least desktop, mobile, all in the same family. And it's kind of still up in the air.
Well, I mean, especially if you think about the marketing they're talking about, right? They're talking about getting all these AI PCs out in market.
Right.
So that's one,
Yep.
and obviously the desktop's playing into that.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Do we know whether there's AI desktop PCs? Probably, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
The second one though is the big push for the performance per watt, and the efficiency. And on the desktop side, at least if Gordon's to be believed, who
True.
cares about efficiency?
Good point.
Just give me as much power and and performance as I can get to a certain degree. So like it's not as interesting of a message if you're like, hey, you know what, whatever 14th gen or on the desktop is going to be
lost
and
Ian.
we lost it. He's like, man, this chat is boring
No
as
cores.
hell.
Yeah, he needs
He's
more
going to get
cores.
out of here.
Yep.
He's got to go download some more cores. He'll be back. So yeah, so if you think about it from the efficiency standpoint, it's less interesting on the desktop. And not
It
that
is.
it isn't important, but it is less important compared to laptops.
And we're seeing a little bit of bifurcation on the desktop too. I mean, Intel just announced its Thunderbolt 5, right? Well, Thunderbolt 5 is a laptop I/O port. It's really not used as much on the desktop because you got all those, you get those huge I/O shield in the back of your case, and you can go ahead and you don't need a USB-C port. You can go ahead and put a dedicated display port. You can put a dedicated HDMI port and so forth. So, I mean, Jason Ziller, who runs the thing, was basically, it's a lot more of a mobile segment than it is, even though it has super bandwidth.
But a lot of people were surprised to see that the new Core Ultra Series 1 only has Thunderbolt 4.
Yes, exactly. That's a great point. I think it just has to do with the fact that it just design cycles. That's all it is. I mean,
but that means then no matter what, the I/O die needs to be updated sooner rather than
That's right.
later
Yeah.
to include Thunderbolt 5.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a combination of the SoC and the I/O. But yes,
Yeah.
you're right. It does have to be updated, and that's one of the nice things about the disaggregation. It makes it essentially modular, where you could go ahead and upgrade it to that.
Yeah.
But it also means that Meteor Lake is not going to be really something that you would use with an external GPU, because you get back to that whole Thunderbolt 4, Thunderbolt 3 thing. And then really one of the things that they emphasize with Thunderbolt 5 is that, hey, we're kind of back on that eGPU swing, guys. Let's go ahead and just, start pushing that forward. So, if you look at it from that standpoint, then eGPUs are really going to be tied to, I guess, probably Lunar Lake as opposed to Meteor Lake. So,
Which, I mean, they showed off on that slide. So, I
Right.
mean, we hopefully should get more information later. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, once again, that's the big question for me is like, okay, well, what does this mean for the desktop?
Mhm.
I mean, I use laptops for sure, but usually I'm even more in like the performance end of the laptop stuff. But for the desktop, yeah, like I just want to know how that's going to be implemented, because if it's the same kind of NPU that's in the laptop part,
I would have to imagine it is. I mean, they just want to push that.
Yeah,
forward,
yeah.
So why not? Yeah.
or could on the desktop side, maybe there's multiple NPUs. Like you said, maybe it just shows up as different devices in there at the expense of compute.
Right. That's
Yeah.
that's the obvious question. I don't know that they're going to do that, but
I mean,
don't know.
no, Halleck said no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
And we can get into it a little bit more tomorrow.
A couple of years ago, Intel. No, I'm back, by the way.
welcome back.
Yeah, we
couple of-
yeah,
A couple of years ago, Intel came out with the idea where you had a generic base tile, and you could input CPU or GPU or NPU or SoC small chiplets and have like 25 of them on a design. And some designs may be NPU heavy, sometimes would be GPU heavy, that sort of thing. However, with the NPU stuff, because as I said before, it comes from the old Movidius team, who Intel acquired. The person to ask there is John Rayfield, because I know internally they're at least one more generation ahead on the NPU design, if not two.
Interesting.
I would think
So-
they're going to go somewhat carefully down the NPU wrap. I mean, you've got a product that most people aren't even aware that. I mean, AI is something that everyone kind of knows about, but necessarily hasn't even used. And AI on the local on PC. I mean, that's what the story that I wrote today. I mean, it's kind of a tough sell. I mean, you've got to convince people that they need it. And then once you do that, then you can start emphasizing a little bit more. But there's not really any killer app for local AI right now. There may be waiting in the wings. And you know how fast ChatGPT took off. So maybe that happens. But I wouldn't say right now there's a huge need for it.
Mark.
Right.
What if they offered the NPU in a 2-watt M.2 like form factor?
Right. And they talked about
And
that.
some notebooks can, if they wanted the bare minimum NPU, they could install that. If they wanted a more AI focused PC,
Well, you've brought up a good point, because that was one of the examples of the products they announced. They talked about with Thunderbolt 5 was these standalone AI accelerators, and that would be a standalone NPU. Now, again, I mean, this is like
what use case?
Yeah, what use case? I mean, you just kind of invented this product. Well, it'd be lovely to see, but you have to have a use for it, and I don't know if that's.
Yeah.
If anyone,
I need to generate more NFTs per second than anyone else.
Anyone else?
I need more cat girls.
That's what mining is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You just mine those NFTs out of the ground, and they're like, you polish them off, and you're like, ooh, look at that NFT.
I mean, my thought is, and I don't know, I think this is more of a question to ask as we get closer to that December launch, is this, there's been OEMs have been asked to do a lot of stuff following these sort of weird initiatives that chip makers and Intel and Microsoft push forward. I mean, we've had, again, mixed reality. We've had some other, foldables and so forth, and the OEMs have been willing to go ahead and say, hey, this might take off, but I mean, man, it's just like for example, with the standalone stuff, I mean, I have to imagine that, yeah, sure, they're willing to make some bets, but at the same time, they have to be a little bit conservative, because they don't want to invest R&D money in something that's just not going to go anywhere. So it's a tough call.
You can't be left behind.
Nope, you can't. Right, and that's the fear. The FOMO is there.
Back to the desktop real quick, because Ian, you dropped, but what's your take on how the messaging that they have right now is going to apply to the desktop in the future? Whether it's Meteor Lake, whether it's Arrow Lake, whether it's whatever implementation.
Because mobile is so focused on performance per watt as the number one metric, and then say performance is second. On the desktop, performance is first, and performance per watt is like fifth. So you then have to pivot and say, well, what's the major metrics that we can push here? We don't know the speeds and feeds of Meteor Lake yet. We don't know how much frequency they're pushing. We kind of do on the GPU, because that was in part of the Malaysia Tour Tech Day. But then if you suddenly put that to desktop power limits in a desktop class system, what does that mean?
Well, also what you were talking about, ThreadRector, if ThreadRector is going to try to put it on the LPE cores first,
right?
Like on the desktop, that doesn't make any sense.
So maybe the desktop doesn't have LPE cores, full stop.
Yeah.
Or, that slider, the power management slider.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe if you put it on low, it starts off with the LPE cores. You put it in performance mode, it starts off by putting it in the P cores.
And I would hope that's
and it
the
just
way they go with
literally
that.
the algorithm changes.
Yeah, I would hope that's the way they do it. But I mean, the other thing to consider is, I mean, you mentioned the desktop. I mean, what happens if with NVIDIA just comes out with, whatever it might be, 4090 or 5000 series or something of that sort, and they just say, hey, look, you want to do AI? We got CUDA by the ton. Why don't you even bother with this stuff that's integrated? I mean, just, and maybe NVIDIA just overshadows everything. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm sure they'd love to.
They would. Yeah, I mean, they've got a discrete GPU begging to be used. I mean, why not emphasize AI? Just try to push that as much as it can.
And they've now got a CPU.
Right.
It's just not for consumers.
Right.
Oh, well.
Yep. Yeah. So.
Grace.
So the other question I have, Ian, I know you have an awesome video on the channel. You should go watch it. I actually did talk a little bit about this in my own video with Wendell, which will be going up next week. But the whole glass substrate thing, how does this play in? And I mean, it's going to apply to both laptop and desktop, but there's benefits to this. So just quickly, maybe kind of recap the glass substrate stuff.
Yeah. So one, it's not glass substrate, it's glass core substrate. That's gonna be a hill I'm gonna die on.
Glass core substrate. Okay, real quick then. What's the difference between glass substrate and glass core substrate?
Glass core substrate sounds better, and it's more.
Oh, okay.
So the substrate, the thing that the CPU, the silicon sits on, it's not all glass. It just has a glass core. But now, today, CPUs have laminate cores, which is like a PCB polyvinyl, circuit board stuff, which has limits in terms of how dense you can make the connections.
That's it, yep.
It has signal loss over distance, what everything does. and it's not tunable for when you have high performance processors. And there's some reversibility in thermal, warm up, cool down, thermal expansion sort of things. The move to a glass core substrate means that you can tune it a lot better for the performance you need for signal or for through hole density through these through glass vias. It's initially going to be more expensive to make, and this is why Intel's talking about it. They want the whole ecosystem to be involved. And the idea is that some of the limitations that laminate core substrates have had, they will become more limiting as these AI chips get bigger and bigger and bigger. The thing that wasn't necessarily communicated that well is that while they showed off a mobile-like chip with a glass core substrate that they're working on, this really is more for the high end. And we're talking about the Gaudi processors, we're talking about the Ponte Vecchios, maybe in extreme GPUs if they become like 1,000 square millimeters of silicon. But I think it'll be a good while before it gets cheap enough for consumer level products.
They see it, I think, as the evolution of EMIB and co-EMIB and Foveros and so forth. This is sort of these are steps further out.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that was my other question. Right. Yeah. Like, can we see a future, years and years and years where all of it is glass core substrate, or do you think it's just a cost thing?
I think Ian's right. I think it'll happen. It'll just be a while. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we all moved away from ceramic to organic.
Right.
To organic laminate cores.
And yes, now, there are. Okay, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, yes, people asked about like structural. I mean, it's glass. It does have some things they need to solve as far as like heat sinks, on example, right? I think was one of the things I mentioned.
Well, no, because it's a glass core.
Right.
You still have some, the top and bottom is still effectively organic laminate or redistribution layers. Okay. That's why it's not see-through.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you pointed that out because okay. So now it's making sense. There's a glass core, but not the whole substrate is going to be glass.
Yeah. Okay. So the rigidity issues, or the issues where people are saying, well, it's glass, it can break, I think are unfounded. That's more of an issue in the manufacturing side because they showed off massive panes of glass.
No, I mean, you might be right. So, I'm just saying that the briefing that I sat in, somebody asked, it was I usually take in the Asian briefings because it's just late in the day, and somebody asked about that and like the heat sinks on an enterprise processor, and he did say that that is an issue and they would have to solve it. But again, I don't know how big of an issue it is.
So that may be if you're thinking about how you put the CPU in the socket and the amount of force, usually it's in what centinewtons, Newton feet, whatever. The amount of torque that you have to put on in order to get the heat sink on, that's been getting higher and higher as chips have been getting bigger. So there may be a crossover at that point.
Yeah. It's a problem they have a few years to solve.
Well, a friend of the show, Davina, in the chat points out, just don't do glass, do Gorilla Glass, and it's even stronger. So you get that crossover.
Maybe someone will.
The benefit of glass is that you can tune the height, you can add dopants, you can essentially change the properties to how you want because it's an amorphous solid and that's highly tunable. Whereas laminate or current organic laminate cores aren't to the same degree.
Yeah. I think what Ian mentioned before with the density of the interconnects, that's the key bit right there.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. We've touched a little bit on the Xeon stuff. We didn't cover it too much on our side, but what is your take on the Xeon stuff? And then they showed off Sienna Forest, or what was the
Sierra Forest.
Sierra Forest, yeah.
So Intel did do a few disclosures about a month ago at a conference called Hot Chips. That's when I was in town to helpfully record the Meteor Lake video with the PC World guys. But in this showcase, because some of the Xeon stuff is going to be the first products on future process nodes, they have to talk about it. Also, people still use a lot of CPUs for machine learning. Inference in the data center is going down that way. And the big thing that they showed off was this. As Adam said, Sierra Forest. It's like a dual die Xeon processor with two I/O dies, top and bottom, and then two dies in the middle. Each one of those dies has 144 E-cores. So it's 288 E-core. So you're asking for the all E-core platform. This is it.
You've been asking
However,
for that.
that single socket, they technically in the slide they showed on stage, it had 576 cores. So a dual socket design of this. So if people who are familiar with the space remember Cascade Lake AP, the AP for advanced processor, where they put two 28 core chips side by side on the same package, and it was a new socket. This is what that kind of looked like. So this looks like Sierra Forest AP, the advanced processor. No multi-threading because it's still Atom cores. This is going to go up against AMD's next generation of Zen 4C, so Zen 5C, the Bergamo enterprise stuff. I think they said, so currently we have, I'm drawing a blank on the current Xeon processor, Sierra Rapids, and then we're going to have the next Rapids again, December 14th.
Yep.
And then Sierra Forest, and that generation called Birch Stream is coming latter half of next year, or in the middle of next year.
And so another video I did was Patrick from Serve the Home. We kind of talked a little bit about that, and one of the things he was talking about was that now that there's the two little strips on the side that are the I/O that can be, or maybe I was talking about it with Wendell, I can't remember. But it's talking about how it's important because then you can actually certify or like go through testing with those I/O dies, but the actual like processing part of it can be figured out later. So is that also a big deal do you believe on that side?
It's the whole benefit of chiplets is that you can design once and use in many platforms. AMD's got this down already. It's the same I/O die, regardless of whichever Zen 4 processor you use. So Intel's going down that route. But it also means for the cloud providers who might want something custom, may want something binned a bit better or a slightly different distribution of resources, it's now a lot easier to serve them as well.
So that, yeah, they don't have to qualify the I/O die anymore. That's already taken care of. Okay.
Can I just actually mention something Ian was bringing up, and I just wanted to make this point about the NPU. It's not a big deal, but it was just something I just want to make sure it's interesting to just mention. So there's just like so the NPU, the inferencing engine, there's two parts to AI, I guess. I mean, there's the training of the process of the model, and then there's essentially the predictions based upon the model. The NPU at this stage of the game is just a prediction engine. It's basically just like if you look at it from a video side of things, there's there's an encoder and a decoder, and we usually talk about a video codec because it does both. And right now, the NPU is not a codec; it's simply a decoder. Encoding takes a hell of a lot of processing power, and we're just not there yet.
That's a good way to describe it. I mean, at least for video people like me. Right. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's with machine learning. There's also a little of a halfway house where you fine tune the final layers of your model. Doesn't require a massive bank of GPUs, but it's still computationally intensive. Lots of places do it in the cloud. I actually retuned a model based on my own voice today, because the first time I did it, it came out as Australian.
Oh yeah, maybe that was just a joke. They were just kind of throwing in that jab there.
I don't know. It was a few months ago, so I put in new data now that the model's been updated, and it did the fine tuning. It did it online in less than a couple of minutes. I don't know what cloud resources the app I use have. But yeah, it means that it becomes a bit more ubiquitous, and we still need to get the decoding, the inference right on consumer devices first.
Right.
It's still very much a struggle to do it on a smartphone. We're slightly getting there in terms of laptops. Then we can go on to this more sort of personalized element, because one of the things Pat Gelsinger said on stage is, imagine having software that learns what you do and can use your data as part of the responses and having it all on device without having the security issues of uploading everything to the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
That was something they were trying to demo with a few of the startups that they're funding on stage.
Right.
So it is being worked on.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, I always think of like the fact that we had, we started off with 3D effects and rendition a while back, and we ended up with, Jurassic Park and not too far away. I mean, so it kind of sounds sci-fi to have that sort of the personalized AI, but, it's maybe not that far away. It's hard to say.
I like Jurassic Park.
Steam has some very restrictive rules about AI generated content on the platform. So if you're waiting for your next Bethesda game to use ChatGPT responses.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of the things they talked about actually at Innovation was the fact that, again, you'd have some merchant that would talk to you about like the local Quidditch scores or something of that sort, as opposed to just selling you crap or something of that sort. And that's, I don't know, I don't know how I feel about that particularly.
You have to have it running on the device. That's the point.
You'd have to have it running on a device. I mean, I think the more interesting application would be the fact that if all of a sudden your game or your Photoshop or something of that sort runs faster because it's using CPU and GPU and NPU, that's something you can sell to consumers. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know.
It depends where your power budget is.
It depends on your power
allocated.
budget is. Depends on how things are allocated and coded. I mean, we had so many problems just coding things for parallel threads and cores for so long.
We still do.
Yeah, right.
We still do.
So,
Yeah, well, yeah, messy. It seems like there's a lot to still iron out. A lot of questions, feeds, speeds, pricing, availability, all that kind of. It sounds like December 14th is the official launch that everything should be clear as mud by then, maybe. Or on that day.
But for me and you guys, it's asking Intel when's the briefing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
Exactly.
Because Thanksgiving is just before then, and there's quite a few events going on around that time.
Well, but then
as well.
also CES is just a couple weeks after that. So
yeah.
So that was a thing I asked Intel a couple of weeks ago. Is release date. At the time, I didn't know it, and I said, "Are you going to hit holiday?" And I was told before end of year, but not holiday, which means you miss all the holiday sales.
Yeah, you're going to miss the sales. Expect to see this stuff at... sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But no, every vendor is going to have a dozen devices at CES.
Yep.
It's going to be a laptop show.
Yep.
Again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we'll stay tuned. Hopefully more to come, more to clear. I mean, and that's why we're here. We're here to talk about it. We're here to try to figure it out in real time sometimes. Anything else from Intel Innovation? Anything else we want to cover before we?
It's there was a small thing about a new upcoming chiplet standard. They showed off a demo called Pipe Creek. That was in collaboration with TSMC, it seems. Chips are going to get more complex than they are today. Let's put it that way.
I will say that Pat Gelsinger is an engine for innovation in hearing aids, because we saw two there.
He was very excited.
Yeah, he wears a hearing aid. He's not ashamed to say it, and he's just looking at. I think he phrased it as if you have a disability, it gives people with disabilities superpowers. So in other words, it turns that negative into a positive, which is with.
I like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I guess another thing real quick, Wendell was very, very excited. Wendell's excited about the memory CVX. No, CX C. Oh crap! No,
CXL.
CXL. Yeah. There was like a third generation or something. Like he was very excited about it. He'll do his own coverage on that. But
first time I see Wendell excited and jumpy.
Yeah. He was just like giddy. He was just like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And I was like, "Okay, I don't fully get it." He tried to explain it a little bit on the video we did, but that's look forward to that over on Wendell's channel. But I'm gonna switch over to Q&A. If you have a question right now, get them in the live chat at PC World. That's kind of the easiest ways for us to see it. Or if you're watching or listening to this later, go over to a link in the description over to our Discord. We have a Full Nerd Questions channel. Speaking of stuff that wasn't at Intel Innovation, we had a question asked last week. Or no. It was asked a little bit ago, but I'm finally getting to it. A friend of the show, Boria Zero, asked, "Does anyone seriously believe that Intel can launch Battle Mage on time?" Which... There was no ARC talk.
Nope.
No. Well, no. Okay.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry. In Inside Meteor Lake.
iGPU.
Stuff, the iGPU stuff,
which
was talked about,
but talked about in the context of ARC. So
but standalone desktop. Tom Peterson wasn't even there
No,
to
that's
talk
true.
about Arc
Because-
in Meteor Lake.
Because innovation is technically a software event.
Yeah.
Kind of, mostly enterprisey. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Excuse.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. They did have something Arc related. They had an arcade cabinet
Oh, did they really?
running on an Intel Arc,
Arcade,
so they called it
yeah.
Arcade.
Arcade.
Wow.
I posted a photo in Discord that was actually pretty funny. Like it was a cabinet. It's got the screen, and then in the bottom base of it, there was a cutout glass panel, and you could see an Arc GPU in there. I'm assuming
To be
running.
honest, I think the limitation there is simply software. The fact that we saw Alchemist and the performance gains a year and a half after launch
Mhm.
means that they want to launch with big software uplifts, and they may delay it because of that. If the software doesn't work, then they're gonna. TAP has said that the way they launched Alchemist wasn't the right way.
Right. Too many
They have
variations,
since
right?
learned.
Yeah.
Or they launched with China OEMs with the A380 first, and then were surprised that people were able to acquire it outside of China, like Steve at Gamers Nexus and everybody else. So it sounds like they're on the understanding that a launch has to be global. And so they're
the
gonna wait for all the
yeah,
pieces.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, and honestly, that is kind of the right approach too. And also don't get out there a lot ahead of time, talking about it over and
Mhm.
over again. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
To be honest, they went through some media people who liked doing the hype train, and then it wasn't ready, then it wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
But the person who leads that group now is Lisa Pierce. She used to be in charge of software. Now she's in charge of all of the graphics, consumer graphics. So yeah, when you see Robert tomorrow, ask if you can talk to Lisa.
Okay. Lisa Pierce. Okay.
No, I've seen
Lisa
it. Yeah,
Pierce.
she knows her stuff.
Okay. But I mean,
There's an interview on my channel that I did
oh, nice.
pre-Alchemist launch,
Okay.
where she talks about getting the software right, and it's hard because they couldn't easily scale up the integrated GPU software. So
Actually.
But I mean, they definitely were talking about, hey, the performance of the GPU in Meteor Lake is double the performance. I don't know what the
Yeah, that's
metric
what I said.
was on
Yeah.
that. But,
it's 2x performance per watt. So they did show graphs that
well-
show double frequency as well.
Yeah. Well, I think they said both. 2x performance and 2x performance per watt is what I remember. But tomato, maybe.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I guess back to this original question though. Do you think Battle Mage can launch on time? Actually, I don't even know what is the timetable that they
What
have
is
right
on
now?
time?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I know, right. I don't know.
But
Hopefully by end of next year.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Uh,
nice to have that third player in the market, but I mean, part of the reason that they're important is the fact that they put competitive pricing pressure on the other two, and so I'm not sure I'm the right person to necessarily say whether they launch on time or not, but the fact that they are there is helpful.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I kind of say this, there's sentiment definitely around the gaming and developer stuff. For me, it's like I would rather, hey, take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Right.
If you need the time, take the time.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like I would rather have you take your time and figure it out than
Especially from a gaming perspective. I mean, just because of the fact that we've seen games like RDR2 and Baldur's Gate 3, you take a lot of time and you come out with a great game.
So like I get it. A lot of people don't necessarily like that, but I'm okay. You know what? I got time. Hopefully I got time. But yeah. So more to come on that. But it was as far as Intel innovation, it was pretty. There was nothing there around the desktop side. We got a question in on the YouTube channel, friend of the show, Bob Jones. So do you think that people will just use series numbering for Intel rather than gen numbering going forward?
It kind of is what it is. I mean, it's a lot easier. I mean, I find myself using code names before processors come out. I find myself using gen names after they do. Everybody's got their own sort of shorthand. I don't know. I mean, as long as everyone knows has a common way of referring to the same thing, it doesn't matter to me, honestly.
I mean, yeah. Well, I think the problem that we could get into, right, is that what was the Ice Lake generation? It's like, okay, well, so it was Ice Lake
10th.
on the laptop, yeah, and then but it's still both 10th gen, but it was different than what was on the desktop.
True.
So like, yes, technically that's a gen, but it's also doesn't have anything to do with each
I
other.
will say that they have a lot of stuff coming out very quickly, it seems like, and that will confuse people because it's going to be like, okay, we just got used to this, and now it's time to leap ahead. Go ahead.
So I will say inside Intel, it's different. There is a branding division, but there are different branding teams per product. So trying to get some unified design ID is difficult. And I think part of what they're trying to do, same thing Qualcomm's trying to do, I think, is don't let people worry about the specific SKU unless they're really, really interested. If you ask people today, what chips do you have in your Intel laptop? They'll say a Core i5 or a Core i7. Is it 6th gen? Is it 8th gen? Is it 12th gen? They'll only know if they've got a 10th gen sticker on it.
Well, but then also, I mean, the whole idea of like, okay, is it really a generational increase if just the compute tile is updated, but the the other tiles are the same?
Yeah. I mean, I think that
it's a question to ask 3 years down the line when it's
yeah.
mix and match.
I mean, I think that approach that Ian described works for Apple, but I think that we have just too many nerds in the PC commuting space that we just kind of have to have that level of detail at some point.
Well, we need Intel. We need a chip called the Pro.
Yeah.
And the Max and the Ultra. You got the Ultra down pat. Now we need the Max and the Pro chip. There we
Yeah.
go. You're done.
I mean, again, I want to see exactly when they launch it, how we're able to describe these things. It requires, 80 characters just to describe
A
all the
decoder wheel.
Yeah, I mean, really. And we were gone through that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Anyway. Okay. Another question over here from Edelbert Doja. I probably mangled that. I'm so sorry. Will system requirements go up for the next version of Windows? What do you think?
Oh, I absolutely. I would imagine so. I mean, it just always is the case. Now, whether there's going to be restrictions involved as far as what they're needing in terms of like, security and architecture, I would say probably not, only because I would hope that Intel and AMD in conjunction with Microsoft have future-proofed their processors that they won't need something like that. I mean, as far as I would expect that Windows is going to run more efficiently on a more modern processor, but as far as like, what the minimum is, maybe I'm just reversing what I just said, but I would think that just in general, there's probably going to be the same min spec requirements in terms of security that there were for Windows 11. I could be wrong on that. That's just a guess.
TPM and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I think the 10 to 11 jump was kind of like a once in a decade thing. So it's going to be another decade before that tweaks. But I will say that one thing that we did learn in Malaysia around the security on Meteor Lake is it's beefed up, but it doesn't have Pluton enabled.
Right. Yeah.
Which is Microsoft's cloud security,
which has
thing.
Been very effective. It sounds like, from Xbox not being hacked. So.
Yeah. But then there's also been some complaints that if you're outside of the US, it's actually really bad for government actors to get, to subpoena Microsoft and get access to some of your data. So Intel, when we asked about Pluton support in the past, they've said, yes, the processors do. In this case, they said it's not enabled.
Yeah, they've always favored vPro instead.
We got a question from Discord, and I just Ivan, a friend of the show, Ivan Ramazanov. I probably mangled that as well. Ian, where are the desktop Qualcomm APUs?
So Qualcomm's Snapdragon Tech Summit is in October this year. It used to be in early December. They've moved it to October. It's all again in Hawaii. And we are expecting next generation PC silicon.
Yep. Nuvia/Orion. Orion brand name, Nuvia. Yep.
It's very on the question of whether it's coming to desktops. It is the CEO Cristiano has made it very clear he wants to take Intel down in laptops. So don't expect any desktop version anytime soon.
The interesting counterpoint to that is the fact that if Meteor Lake cuts power by half, it goes and attacks one of the arguments that Qualcomm has traditionally made: lower power. You know, yeah.
So the thing on the power is, whenever I see lower power, the question to ask is static or active, right? More often than not, it's quoted as active or peak. However, a notebook spends most of its time on static power. So how much are you reducing static power by? Again, we'll have to wait until we have devices in to test.
Interesting. Here's a good one from a friend of the show, Romonster, over on Discord. What do you think is behind Apple's sudden about face on right to repair, and Microsoft quietly making replacement parts for Surface devices available? Will we see more companies embracing right to repair?
Well, we've seen Surface parts being available for a couple of generations now, with everything dating back to SSDs and things like that. So I'm not sure I can speak to Apple, but I mean, I think there's an obviously positive trend in terms of, you've got devices that are, supposedly sealed like this. And yes, I mean, the ability to upgrade that with additional memory or an additional storage or something of that sort is obviously something that we can all get behind. Again, I can't speak for what Apple's doing. But, again, great in concept, absolutely positive.
Well, so Apple just made their latest smartphones USB Type-C.
Right.
Plus.
Yes.
Wasn't there new California legislation about right to repair passed recently? It showed up in my feed in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Not something
I saw a couple of headlines, but I didn't click through.
I don't know the status.
The thing is, companies do go through culture changes, and Apple has been through a couple, obviously, with Steve Jobs. The question is, do they now pivot to a more... Their whole previous environment and sustainability governance goals that they had before, they showed off that machine that could take apart an iPhone in, 30 seconds, right? But that wasn't for mainstream, and they still made parts that you needed to have the key uploaded to, then you bought it at almost full retail price anyway. So, and I did a video on this, the right to repair versus the right to salvage. And the difference being, the right to salvage is, if you have two devices that are broken, can you make one fully complete device out of the parts without needing to go to the manufacturer? And Apple's, the right to salvage hasn't been there. So if anything, I think anybody saying right to repair don't mean nothing until it's a right to salvage.
Yeah, no, good. Yeah, good way to kind of.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say in addition to that is the fact that, yes, I mean, if I have an old laptop and I want to get rid of it, I would feel a heck of a lot more confident being able to take the SSD out of that, and so knowing that I have my data, any data that I have there, and I can smash it with a hammer.
Well, so that's the point. Corporate devices that use MacBooks or iPhones, they need to remove the data device and destroy it themselves.
Right.
They literally put it through an industrial shredder. If you're doing that with a full device, that's not very environmentally friendly. If you can take out the drive and do that and then recycle everything else, then yeah.
I do feel like, though, this whole right to repair movement is definitely something that some companies are treating as like a buzzy kind of thing. Like, oh, hey, we're in on this right to repair train too. But it definitely counteracts a lot of what Apple is known for, in their ethos when building stuff. So I am curious to see how they handle it, but I think it's a lot easier for other laptop manufacturers, things like that. I mean, Framework is getting a lot of buzz for a lot of reasons,
right.
And whether it's hype or not, either way, it is hopefully a net good thing for people, so yeah, I'd be curious to see how it goes. We got a question from Christian Noken. over on the live chat. Have you been following the Unity engine pricing change situation, and what are your thoughts? I mean, I've been following it, but I'm not going to say I'm any sort of expert.
Yeah.
Ian, have you been anything you want to talk about on that? Or?
I saw the perfect meme for this.
Okay,
it's
I love memes.
it's a meme of Wizards of the Coast trying to charge people to create Dungeons and Dragons content. Everybody gave them the middle finger. Unity saw that and thought, I want to do that as well.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot going on here, but we don't need to necessarily recap it. I mean, either way, it looks like a bad situation, and now they're saying they're backtracking to certain degrees. Who knows? I mean, either way, like it just does not seem like a good look.
Mm-hmm. The one thing they forgot to consider is how can somebody exploit this for evil?
Mm.
If nobody could exploit it for evil, then it's a different question. But everything they were suggesting, like being charged per install, well, if I change systems, does that mean the charge gets applied again and again and again? I mean, EA tried to charge people to buy pre-owned games back when physical media used to be a thing, and that went down like a lead balloon. So, yeah.
A couple more things, and then we'll wrap up here. We have a question from Michael H about what, if any, hardware is in the Falcon Northwest ATCS Tech Cooler Master case over here. Yeah, it's behind us. I guess you can't see it on the thing. Maybe they saw it in a different video. But yeah, this is an old case from a Maximum PC build that was brought in. Actually, Will Smith has a case as well from an old Dream Machine that he's going to donate to the set as well. No, there is no hardware in there. It's just a cool case that Kelt was like, hey, it's just sitting around, and I was like, oh, we'd love to put it on the set.
There's 8 skull and crossbones on that. Does that mean that there's what that 8 CPUs died in it?
Probably, yeah. No, or it took down 8 Macs.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
shot down 8 Macs.
Right.
So no, I mean that's one of the things. I'm just whatever random side note. We're trying to refresh or kind of put some historical things in the background. I like having kind of these historical pieces. I mean, I know you like this kind of stuff too. Putting it in.
I have too much.
Yeah.
I know, right?
So it's like, what can you display, and
I should bring some stuff. Just get out of my office.
No, please, yeah. No, we got some fun stuff, and yes, hashtag not that Will Smith, the other Will Smith. Let's see, there was another one over here that I want to. So this was asked last week, and we kind of covered it, but now that Ian, you're here, mostly running at stock, asked, could Ecamm, that video we did when you were here for Hot Chips, could that be used inside of a vapor chamber instead of currently used internal support pillars with heat pipes going from the vapor chamber to fin stacks for air cooling?
The problem is it's not the same technology, because vapor chamber is to do with wicking inside the heat pipes, and because the way the wicking is done through like sintered copper, if I remember correctly, this is more structural. So I don't think so. However, I am not an expert. Actually, after we did that video, the Fabricate Labs people reached out to me on LinkedIn and other things, and
oh, sweet,
said, you want to see stuff, come by. If you got any questions, let us know. So I was like, commercialize when? But to further onto that story, it sounds like they want to manufacture it themselves and then basically sell units to the liquid cooler manufacturers like that. So it's not essentially licensing the technology; it's selling units.
Interesting.
So next question becomes scale up and scale out. If I remember correctly, they said it took 6 hours to build one of those things.
Wow,
just one. Okay, that's
just one.
Okay.
and knowing my chat is probably actually about 6 minutes, and I'll have to correct myself. But yeah, it's still a nascent technology in R&D. So,
well, one of the questions or comments, so we got a lot on that video that we did. Fun video, you should go watch it. Was about clogging. You know, like, oh, you know what, this is going to be a candidate for clogging. There's no easy way to clean it out. Most people are, or not most people, some people, especially in the chat, are dismissing it outright just because it's not going to work because it's easier to clog. What do you think, Ian?
Well, I mean, we've seen clogging with just standard vertical fins, skive fins. So if that's going to clog, anything's going to clog. The question that it's how well do you keep your loop maintained? You know, and or is it built down to a cost? If you're buying the cheapest liquid cooler on the market, perhaps the bio side. I mean, there's been some companies in the past that have had to recall thousands of units because they were just not enough bio side. They thought they could get away with only putting in 0.5% rather than 2% or whatever. So.
But then I guess the other equation of that, if it does get clogged, do you think it's easier or harder to clean out?
I mean, the question is how are you cleaning it? Are you cleaning it by just putting high pressure stuff through it, or are you actually putting like a toothbrush to it? And to be honest, it's like cleaning in a case. Do you get your brush in there, or do you use some compressed air? I bet you compressed air will do it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Last one, and then we will get out of here. Friend of the show, VC Jester, gave us $5 super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Said, Ian, you've traveled the world a lot. Which area has your favorite food?
Oh,
don't say London.
you know,
We know you're lying.
if you look at German food, everybody seems to love German food, but in the winter it's just meat and potatoes.
Nothing wrong
That
with
being
that.
said,
Keeps you warm.
Yeah.
Keeps you warm.
I was recently away for like 3 weeks on the road, or like 2 weeks, then home for a day, then off for another week or two. And yeah, so sometimes just a home cooked meal. You go on the road, you eat out so often. Everything's, made in a kitchen. You're around a table, you're having a meeting, or it's just something you're picking up on, at the shop on the way to a venue. Just sitting down and having, meat and mash and a few veggies that's been home cooked in your own kitchen. You miss it.
I was disappointed by the Malaysian food. I mean, I was expecting, because, we're right in that peninsula. I was expecting some sort of fusion of Thai or, something of that sort. And it might have just been because they saw a whole bunch of white guys walk in, and it was a hotel, and it was just like, let's make this stuff as bland as possible. But I was just like, we ate at the hotel, we ate at some other, events and so forth. And I was just like, there's just, there was no spice to it at all. I mean, we're in California, we have Thai. I mean, I go to the Thai place, and, my wife is from Minnesota, so that they make everything as bland as possible. My kids don't like it, but I like a little bit of a punch to it. And I lived in London for a while too, and that's like the curry capital of the world. And and it has good food, by the way. And I was just like, dude, where is the spice? And then there was just nothing there. And I was wondering to myself, is this Malaysian food, or is this just like, again, because they saw some sort of
tourist
pasty white dude come in, and they're like, sorry.
So Mark, I think we were there perhaps for about a total of 10 meals, maybe 11.
Like yeah.
And all but one was the same meal.
Pretty much. Yeah, at least breakfast was.
So at these trips, if you're in a part of a big press group, especially at a hotel, it's like a buffet with a little pick here and there.
Yep.
But also on location, and for a couple of the dinners, it was also buffet style, and it was the same sort of food offered each time. There's only one. We went to one venue that I think was used for filming of Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And that was actually a proper sit-down 3-4 course meal.
Right.
We do say, these trips were sponsored, but these companies also want to put themselves in the best light, so they do try and treat you a little bit. It's up to the listeners and the viewers to decide whether that actually influences the reporting that comes out.
Yep.
But they all do it.
Yep.
Nobody's special
So
in that
again,
regard.
full disclosure, we went to Malaysia. Intel paid for our flights and meals and hotel rooms because we had to get there, and we didn't want to do this. But as we don't even have IDG branded water bottles, so there we go.
Yeah.
That's our disclosure.
It's because you need Tech Potato.
Yeah, you
branded
Tech
ones.
Potato merch as well.
That'd be hilarious to sell your merch.
But
on our
anyways,
store.
they did actually have. I don't know. They actually had that little night market down the street from our hotel, and the only reason I didn't want to go there, which looked fantastic, it looked cheap and so forth, was because I was just like, you know what, dude, if I get food poisoning, I have messed up my entire trip, and I am never going to hear the end of it. So I was just like, yeah.
So that's another reason why they give you the same thing 10
Right.
times out of 11.
Yeah,
They
it's
don't
like-
want anybody to fall ill.
Yeah, it's like airplane food. They want you to very.
You do use things like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, one of those services, please give us a review. We would really appreciate it. And every time you do, Ian gets a warm home-cooked meal. So you want him to get happy and healthy. Anyway, thank you to Mark for coming in.
Check out that Surface announcement tomorrow.
Yeah, check it out and go check out all your awesome coverage for innovation.
Thanks.
We have more videos coming up that we need to get editing, so we need to get out of here. Ian, thank you so much for coming on the show, especially at the last minute. I appreciate it, and hopefully we get to see you again soon. I'm not quite sure when, but
December, I think I'm in town, and get well soon, Brad.
Yeah, exactly.
and what do you have coming up on your channel you want to pimp, or anything to show off?
So we got some more episodes of the AI Hardware Show. I think at least 2 or 3 now have been edited, so they're going live. My video about Meteor Lake. We've got another video about Thunderbolt. And we've actually got some sponsored content coming down the pipe that's quite esoteric, about 3 or 4 different videos on different aspects of the semi industry that are really exciting. So I've really enjoyed doing those.
Interesting. Okay, and then on our side, we have the stuff from Intel Innovation. We there's a Meteor Lake video and then 3 interviews. You interviewed Michelle, from Intel. Yep. I interviewed Wendell and Patrick from Serve the Home.
Upcoming AI stuff, hopefully.
Yeah. Next week, we'll have the podcast like usual, and then, like I said, I'm planning a live build with this mean piece of hardware. Yeah, as long as I don't break it beforehand. Plenty of other stuff coming up. More Falcon Northwest stuff. But yeah. Anyway, Willis. Thank you for dealing with the restreaming buffering stuff. We need to look into that.
Yeah, sorry for everyone. So please make sure to listen again to the audio podcast of this episode, because we're recording internally, so it's a backup.
Yeah. But take us out of here, Willis, and we're done.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, again for tuning in. Again, sorry for the rebuffering. We gotta check our internet providers. Christian Nokin on the chat says, "I think your internet provider needs to be slapped a few times." That's like we gotta find the source. But anyways, have a good rest of your day, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.